We weren't on Tuesdays like we normally are. So we want to recap the national championship Final Four in basketball. Really, really good event. Well played games. We'll recap that. Then we'll recap the SEC weekend in baseball, and then we will get into our preview stuff. So, Sweets, what's your thoughts on the Final Four this weekend and Michigan's big win?
Fantastic. Michigan, hats off. Hail to the victors. They were the best team in the country pretty much for most of the year. They proved that they were here at the end. Fantastic. Mara got injured, but played unbelievably all weekend. And Cadeau, he was questionable for Saturday's game. And just tough kid. Carried that squad. His toughness. I don't know. I don't know that they win. I don't think they win without Cadeau playing. I just don't think they do. He was that important to them. The UConn Illinois game, fantastic game. UConn did what UConn does. They just win in March and April. They're so seasoned. Hurley pushes the right buttons. And then you turn around and you face Michigan on Monday. And frankly, Michigan was just too much. They were bigger. And just more talented. They were the better team, and I think UConn made it a game. It wasn't a blowout. Michigan controlled most of it, but like I said, they just do what they do. UConn tried to make a run at the end. Michigan was able to hold them off. Just a fantastic showing. What's his Dusty May? He has stamped himself as one of the premier coaches in the game, and I think that a lot of people knew that coming in to the weekend. But when you verify it by winning a natty, that's when you separate the wheat from the chaff. So hats off to Dusty May, Michigan, fantastic weekend, great job, and I hope you guys suck in football. Thoughts, Kev?
That is right. So Saturday's games, Illinois, UConn. I thought Illinois played with some nerves. They missed a lot of easy buckets in the paint, and they're traditionally for the year they score well in the paint, and that allowed UConn to play out in front pretty much the whole game. Ended up winning by 10, about a 6 to 8 point game. Most of the game. UConn made one run right there, but again, they just missed too many easy shots, I think. Again, that was their first time in the Final Four in 20 plus years. So understood. And again, you're playing Hurley, who is Mr. March Madness as a coach. And he had his team ready and they played well. Second game, maybe the best played game of the year by Michigan. And I don't say that as Michigan, the team. I say that as any team in college basketball. Yeah. Look, if you shoot 12 to 27, 45% from the 3-point line, it's tough to beat you. And that's what they did. And so they were really, really good. It didn't matter. Lindenberg got into foul trouble, but it didn't even matter. I mean, they just rolled. They brought McKinney off the bench. He was 6 out of 9 for 3. Gale played well, and I totally concur with you. Cadeau was the dude. His toughness, his defense. He was the guy that I don't think they win the national championship without him.
And let me jump in, Kev. You were spot on that game that Michigan played Saturday. Because that Arizona team, that's a hell of a squad right there. Most years that squad is good enough to win a national title. Michigan was just that much better than them, and they beat the holy hell out of them Saturday night. That was a dominant performance from stem to stern, and again, hats off. That was just an ass whooping.
Yep. And again, I will tell you that if in college basketball, the team shoots lights out from 3. They usually the next game they come down to earth, which they did against UConn. They were 13% against UConn, only hit 2. But again, they were the best team. Just too much from an overall size, depth standpoint. Now, UConn had size too and actually out-rebounded them 46 to 39. But from the field, on Monday night, Michigan shot 38% was better, and then the free throw line, they really won the game at the free throw line, and that was going inside and getting to the free throw line with your bigs and points in the paint there. The free throw line was, if you just look at the points, was the difference, but it was how they played the game. 25-12 from the free throw line. Um, Again, Michigan, a good team. Again, totally agree with you. We kind of referenced going into the national championship weekend. You have Hurley, who's already, he's there. He's in the top 5 coaches. And we talked about Underwood, Dusty May. Who else might put their stamp in there? This is Tommy Lloyd's first real good run in the NCAA tournament. Of course, he's been good in his 5 seasons at Arizona. But he's got knocked out early in the tournament. But he had a good run getting to the Final Four here. But definitely May puts himself in that top 5 to 7 coaches. I think he'll do well. It reminds me a lot of Brad Stevens that was at Butler and went to Boston, and the fact that he's May just does such a good job in preparation and relates to his guys so well, puts a team together, and his emotions are very well in check throughout the game. And that's just a lot of the preparation. So,
two other up and coming coaches, in my opinion, Kev, McCollum from Iowa and Hoiberg from Nebraska, both of them. Neither made the Final Four, but fantastic jobs by both of those guys. And like I said, this McCollum guy, I'd never heard of him, so don't let me act like I've been on him for years. Never heard of him before this year. But when I went back and looked at his record, this guy is the truth. He's got 4 natties at a lower level. But listen, it's just as tough at the lower levels. It might be tougher because they got more teams,
Well, and again, he stepped up. He won the conference at Drake, went to the NCAA tournament, and then stepped up. So there's no doubt he can develop players. So
and he's got an eye for talent too.
Yes.
He brought what was the kid's name? You know who I'm talking about? Was it?
I do. His point guard.
Yeah, Britz or something like that. He brought him. He brought him from Northwest Missouri to Drake to Iowa, and the kid proved that he was good enough to play at all 3 levels. So good for him. Good for McCollum and Hoiberg too. That Nebraska and Iowa will be heard from in the next few years, basketball wise for sure, with their coaching staffs.
Yep, Brandon Sturtz is your guy.
Sturtz.
Okay. Yeah. Going from that, jumping over to SEC baseball. What were your thoughts on the SEC baseball weekend? Again, the league's very competitive.
What were your thoughts? Great weekend. Great weekend for Georgia. As someone. It was me. It was me who called them going to Mississippi State and winning that series. I didn't call a sweep, but I did say they'd win the series. So I really need to start betting on baseball. But a fantastic. Listen, Mississippi State's a top 5 team, and I still think that they're still that good. But Georgia just went in and handled their business. And Georgia is that team right now. It's tough to maintain that level of play all season long. Georgia's going to hit a soft spot here soon. The season's too long. But for the sake of them and their fans and my daughter, they better do it soon, because they want to be where they are now in late May, because Georgia's just hitting on all cylinders right now. LSU with a big win over Tennessee, series win. We talked about how important that was, and I'm gonna tell you what, they are not happy with Ellender up in Knoxville. Rocky Top is they've got the Tomahawks. They are not happy people up there. What are some of your thoughts, Kev, on the series? Any stick out to you?
Yes, if I were going to go winners and losers out of this weekend, I would go winners, obviously Georgia. I would go with LSU. Had to have a series win there against Tennessee, in my opinion. And the way that they did it was impressive, in the fact that they had to gut it out and get a tough Sunday win. Defensively, though, that's they gave up runs Saturday and Sunday, and that almost cost them the series, how they played defensively. Other winners, Auburn, I think, was a winner this weekend, winning 2 out of 3 against Arkansas. Got to go Alabama as a winner, too, winning 2 out of 3 against Oklahoma at Oklahoma. Puts Alabama at 8-4 in the league, again, battling at the top at a place that I didn't think they would be.
Yep.
I think that was it from winners and losers. I want to make sure I'm not leaving anybody out in thought. My two losers this weekend would obviously have to be, you mentioned them already, with Tennessee. And then my second loser out of the weekend would be Arkansas, losing 2 out of 3, coming off getting swept at home. So I would put them in there as a loser out of the weekend. You look, I mean, man, the SEC is still tough. You know, Georgia, so two reasons Georgia's winning. They're bats, and we know they can hit the ball, but their bullpen's the best bullpen in the SEC. They were huge again this weekend. Every Sunday seems like their bullpen stems the tide, keeps them in the game, and allows them to come back. And they've won those Sunday games. And allow. I mean, look, a sweep in the SEC against anybody
It's big.
really helped the team out, and sweeping a team like Mississippi State at Mississippi State, that's huge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a hell of a sweep. You know, and great weeks by some individual players. Kate Aaron Meady for LSU, 4 bombs and seven ribs on Sunday against Tennessee. You heard me correctly. 4 bombs, 7 RBIs. Fantastic showing by him. I wish he'd spread it out a little more instead of just doing it all in chunks. You know, get hit 4 in 4 different games, but. Fantastic job by him. Hunter Dietz was fantastic for Arkansas against Auburn. He had 11 Ks in 7 innings against them for their lone win in that series. And Cam Appenzeller for Tennessee had retired 15 straight LSU batters in across 5 innings of work for the weekend. Only allowed 1 hit, so he did his part up there. But you know, Tennessee's struggling right now. Like I said, they're not happy with Ellender, and I don't think that his job's on the line or anything. I just think that they need to. They just had some misses in the portal, similar to other teams, LSU included, and I you know that's so important now. I think that moving forward, I think the portal is going to be the biggest, even more so than recruiting, because at that point you know you're basically stealing everybody else's best guys, and you know they're obviously the best guy at where they're at, but then when they jump to the SEC, it doesn't always commiserate. Like we've seen some guys that have came over to LSU this year that just haven't lived up to the hype. So you know the evaluation and you know getting to where you want them as players is very huge for all the coaches in the SEC. So not just Allender, not just Jay Johnson. You know, everybody needs to do that, and it's just going to become more and more relevant as time goes on. Anybody stand out to you, Kev, on the weekend?
Yeah. So again, going to your point there of portal and development, I still think you got to win on development, but you're absolutely right. Evaluation of who you bring in is key. You know, we talked a little bit about it in our previews last week about who would have thought that Tennessee would be 13th, 14th in the league in hitting. They're hitting 269, and that's where their downfall is. And it's a combination. So like they did get Henry Ford in the portal, and he's played really well. But a couple of the guys that have not played well for them, Lawless has not hit well. Manny Marin, from a development standpoint, has. Abernathy's been okay. Their first baseman, that is from Marietta. Can't think of his name real quick. Should he's
Condon.
no,
It's
no, it's Lawless, and then Clark, Levi Clark.
oh, okay.
He's hitting under 200. So I think that's the biggest thing for Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee's pitching's been a disappointment. Their pitching has been well enough to win, but their hitting has been. And along those same lines we talked about last week, who would thought LSU would be 14th in pitching in the SEC, which they are. They did get the win this weekend in the series, but then losing the midweek game last night, I think that puts a lot of pressure on LSU. Again, we'll talk about it more when we get into the previews here in a minute, but they've lost 6 games out of the league right now, and none of those games were like against your early teams when you played in some of those tournaments when you played Indiana, Notre Dame, some of those teams, their midweek losses have again against teams that are not that good. And it's the pitching that didn't show up. They gave up 10 runs last night simply because they can't throw strikes. Where I'm going with that is Tennessee, because they're not a complete team, has put themselves square on the bubble where they'll make the tournament or not. And I think LSU, even though they won last weekend, could potentially be on the bubble. They've got to keep winning in the SEC. They got to be if they end up continuing to lose midweek games, 14-16 in the SEC is a must to make the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
Because they're like 75th in baseball RPI right now, even though they're ranked 25th. So, and that's strictly from losing midweek games.
Yeah, it's and listen, this happens every year. We lose midweek games. A few years ago, we lost back to backs to Nichols and maybe Northeastern Louisiana State or some small school that we had no business losing to. But it happens, and it happens to everybody. But when you're scuffling in league play where we're sitting here at 500 and we haven't been that sharp. We looked a little better last weekend though, but when you're doing that, you need to win those midweek games against softer teams to boost that record up there. And if you can't win those games, it's certainly going to hurt come selection time. It's 14-16 we're in. I think 13-17 we're in for, we'd get to a regional with that. 12, no, I think 13 is the lucky number. But LA got to start.
It is if you start winning those midweek games. And yeah, everybody loses a couple of them, but they've lost 6 now. You can't continue to lose a midweek game against a team like Bethune-Cookman. You can lose 1 or 2 of those, and everybody does lose 1 or 2 of those a year. But now they're up to 6. So
yeah,
I just think they got to win them. Very similar. I think Arkansas square. And look, Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU could all end up making the tournament because they're all capable of going on a run, winning 6 out of 9 in the SEC, and putting themselves in a good place. They're all capable of doing that. But I just think those teams have put themselves behind the 8 ball. Whereas you got a team like Alabama, Florida's done pretty well overall too. Alabama's sitting there 8-4. They have a very good shot of going into the tournament, possibly a 1 seed as they get up in there.
Oh yeah. They, I mean, if Alabama keeps playing the way they are, they could be, they can be hosts. They could be a super regional host. I mean, they're sitting at 8 right now, and they're coming around. Like I said, everybody was dogging Georgia, dogging Bama. At the beginning, they can't hit, blah blah blah. I mean, now we're mid-April. Now we're starting to see who's who and what's what, and Bama puts the bat on the ball.
They do.
Probably the best player in the nation, in Justin LeBron, and and not only does he hit the ball, but he steals bases too. I mean, kid's just a hell of a ball player. They're clicking right now. They're clicking, and if they can keep it rolling, they're going to be in fantastic shape. Like we talked about, the SEC is probably going to get probably 12 and maybe 13 in.
Possible that D1 baseball last week had 13 SEC teams in their field of 64. And again,
Mizzou, South Carolina. Who's the other one? Mizzou and South Carolina that missed.
Mizzou, South Carolina were misses. Because I think Tennessee was in, but it might have been Tennessee that they didn't put in. No, it was Ole Miss. Okay. They didn't put Ole Miss in.
Okay.
And all Ole Miss did was go to Florida and win 2 out of 3.
Mm-hmm. So they'll just flop. They'll put Ole Miss in this week and pull Tennessee out.
Yeah,
they should have been anyway. But as far as this week goes, some great series on tap. Georgia and Florida will be a good series. Match up 2 top 25 teams. Georgia's trying to keep this win streak going. Florida's got a great pitching staff. Not hitting the ball all that great, but those guys on the bump can steal deals. So. That's a tough matchup for Georgia. I still Georgia's just clicking right now, and until somebody smacks them around, I got to pick Georgia to win the series. What do you think, Kev?
Yeah, I like Georgia 2 out of 3 there, but I do think it's an interesting series because Florida's pitching is very capable of they're capable of Well, they're going to put 3 really good pitchers out there,
Yeah.
Friday through Sunday. So they're capable of winning 2 out of 3. Again, they went to Arkansas 2 weeks ago and swept Arkansas. First time Arkansas swept at home in 10 years. So Florida's capable. I like Georgia, not just because of their bats. Again, I just love what Georgia's doing with their bullpen. Volko's doing well. Vogue's doing well. Neither one of those guys are just totally dominant, but they've been very solid as starters. Sunday's been a real crapshoot for them. Ishikawa's not been very good. But man, their bullpen, Georgia's bullpen, has just been really good. They've stepped up. So I like them to win it because of that. What's your thoughts on Texas and A&M? We start there with Georgia and Florida's a rivalry, and then A&M and Texas. That's a huge rivalry game too.
Well, Aiden Sims was named the SEC Pitcher of the Week after a great 7 innings against Vandy last weekend. So hopefully he will deal as well against Texas. Texas is a great squad. Like we've been talking about all year. If they're not the best team in the nation, they're neck and neck with them. Just continue to hit the ball. Anthony Pack Jr. I don't know if he won Freshman of the Week last week, but if he didn't, he should have. I mean, he's just been knocking the dog shit out of the ball. Texas is a great team. Texas is a great team. The pitching's doing fantastic. I like Texas in series. Where's this series at, Kev?
They're playing at College Station.
Okay. That stinks for everybody. Yeah, I still like Texas in the series, Kev. I don't like them this week though. A&M's strong. A&M's got a lot of talent, but I don't think they're good enough to take 2 or 3 from Texas. I think Texas just their pitching staff is I mean they've got their Sunday guy would be a number 1 on 90+% of the teams in the country. That's how
99% of the teams in the country.
Exactly. That's how good their pitching staff is. So, and the relief, everything. They hit the ball well. They're just dealing right now. What do you think, Kev?
So, I think Shane Sadal is the key in this series because he's been very up and down for A&M, and he's their Friday night starter. Out of conference, he was pretty good. In conference, he's not been very good at all. Weston Moss,
he's a champion too. Sadal's a champion.
He is.
He won.
And so for that reason, and the fact they're playing in College Station, I'm actually going to pick A&M in this series. I just think it's going to be that much of a rivalry game. I think Texas is the best lineup, and I think Texas is the better coach in this matchup. But I just think first time going back since he left A&M to take the Texas job, and you've got Grahovic, you've got Binder up, you've got Jordan if he plays. You got Caden Sorrell, Hakopian, all those freshmen, Kellner. You just got a heck of a lineup there with A&M. I could go on and on. I'm leaving 4 or 5 guys out, including their third baseman who's been really good all year. I can't think all of a sudden for his name, but I think A&M and man, what a matchup between Aiden Sims and Dylan Volantes for Sunday. And I think it'll come down to that. I think it'll come down to those two. And I just think Volantes is due a loss. So I give A&M 2 out of 3 in this game. Now, I wouldn't bet with your money on it. It's just a hunch, okay? So it's just a hunch that A&M's due to get a series win there.
I hunched off Georgia for about 3 weeks, and they're making me look like a genius. So. Sometimes you got to ride those hunches. Well, let's go into Arkansas and Alabama. Both teams are ranked. Alabama's right around the top 10 now, coming off a fantastic weekend, and just frankly, just playing a lot better ball than most people expected them to. Like I said, we talked about. Can't say enough about Justin LeBron. He's going to be one of the top 3 picks in the draft, undoubtedly. And he as he goes, the Gumps go, and and their pitching is coming through for him too. A lot of question marks early in the year, but they've been fantastic in SEC play. Bryce Fowler had a couple bombs against Oklahoma, sealed the game for him against Oklahoma. Justin Osterhaus has got 7 steals on 8 attempts this year, so he's getting on and getting over. and then you got Jason Torres behind him, trying to pound him deep. He had a great game in their 10-run outburst against Oklahoma the other day. So Bama's got guys that can hit the ball. Arkansas is, they're on the road. Arkansas shouldn't, but Arkansas is going to take 2 out of 3 or sweep. That's my prediction. If they don't sweep them, they will take 2 out of 3 this weekend. Tell me I'm wrong.
So no, I'm not. So they're mixing their pitching up a little bit here. Geifel, who's not been terrible on Fridays, but he's been a little inconsistent, but he's really not been that bad. Arkansas is going to move him to the pen and move Dietz up to their Friday night starter. Now, Dietz has been really good. And the interesting thing, he's pitching against Bama, against Tyler Fay, who's probably he's not been the best Friday night starter, but he's been one of the best. He certainly is the best unknown Friday night starter coming into the SEC season, and he's been very consistent. So that Fay and Dietz matchup will be really good.
Yeah.
Dietz has been
a no-hitter.
Yes, he had no hitter. So I think that'll be an interesting matchup, and I think Arkansas will get the win there. Again, I'm just going to ride the Van Horn piece here, and with him moving Dietz, I think ceiling. I think Dietz has a better overall ceiling than Fay, but again, Fay has been really good. Man, you can't discount him. Going to Saturday, you have Gibbler going for Arkansas against Zane Adams for Alabama, and I think that's a good matchup. I really think Alabama gets that one there, and so they split the first two. I think Adams will get them that win. But I think when they go to Game 3 and they piece that bullpen together with Geifel in the bullpen, I look for Arkansas to start someone and then bring out Geifel in the 4th or 5th and let him try to run the rest of it. He was really good in the bullpen last year, and that's kind of how they used him basically to close out a game that they needed to win. So I agree with you. I think Arkansas is going to win 2 out of 3. I think they'll just piece it together when it gets to that rubber match on Sunday. But again, you can't discount Alabama and the fact that they can win 2 out of 3. You mentioned a lot of the players for Alabama that have been really good. One guy that's hitting 375 for them that everybody had a high hopes for this guy 3-4 years ago. Well, senior, so 4 years ago, is Brady Neal. He's just been outstanding. LeBron's definitely their best player, but Neal has been their best hitter up until this point in the year. And who would have thought that, going into the season? I would not have predicted that. He's got a chance to be an all-conference catcher for it. Let's go from there to, again, a series a team has to win this weekend, and it's going to be tough to do. Tennessee at Mississippi State.
I knew exactly where you were going with that one.
Tennessee's got to win the series, and State's wounded.
I agree. I'll tell you what. If they're 5-10 at the halfway point in the SEC season, it isn't good. And like I said, I don't think Ellender's a bad coach. I think he knows what he's doing. I mean, like I said, I just think that they just missed on too many players. And when when you're portal reliant, as so many teams are now, you've got to hit on the lion's share of the guys you get, especially with what you're paying some of these cats. And when you miss, here's what you get: 4-8 through 12 games. But I mean, the grind doesn't stop. They've got 18 more SEC games that they got to get through. So they're going to, Tennessee's not going to roll over. They're a proud program. They've got some ball players and they've got some talent up there. They'll put it together. I just don't think that they'll put it together this weekend. I think they'll get one from Mississippi State. But I think Tomas Valencias, 6-1 with a 1.15 ERA is just filthy. I think Tennessee. I like them on Sunday. I like them to get Foster, the lefty from Mississippi State on Sunday. I just think that the Valencians and Stone are too much for Tennessee. They flipped Mack and Tegan Coons for Tennessee, so Mack will start tomorrow and Coons will start Saturday. And I kind of like the Coons Stone matchup. I mean, if Tennessee could get that game, they might could win the series, but I don't think it's gonna happen. What do you think, Kev?
So Mississippi State's third in ERA, 3.4. They're the second best hitting team in the SEC, hitting 327. Tennessee's hitting 264. Fell from 270, 14th in the league there. Pitching wise, they're ninth, 4.12. I just don't like the matchup at all for Tennessee. You mentioned, Valencius and them. I saw Baseball America had him as a top 10 draft pick for Mississippi State, and he has been that good. So I don't like Tennessee in the first two games of this series at all. Coons is talented, and he always gives Tennessee 4 good innings, but he always seems to have one bad one in there. If he could limit that and give them 80 pitches of good, baseball, and he's capable because again he'll roll 4 innings with anybody. But if he gives them 4 good or 6 good innings and 80 pitches, that I would say that might give him a chance. But I just like what State has, and again, to me, they're hitting coming off of that Georgia series where there were 2 games in that series State could have won, but Georgia was just kept competing and played one Sunday in extra innings. I just think at home against State playing at home after losing 3. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that State sweeps Mississippi State or State sweeps Tennessee. And I'm a firm believer in what you said. I don't think Elander's on any hot seat by no means. I think it'll be though a lot like last year with A&M and their coaching change. I think they'll have to stand by Elander, and we'll see how he does next year. But the pressure will be on him next year, and that's not fair. When you're following a guy that was going to make the tournament every year and was very, there was nobody had more swag than Vitello, and that's tough to follow. And especially Tennessee needs this series. That's why I brought it up. They need to win 2 out of 3, and if they win 2 out of 3, they're back in the tournament hunt. Things will be good. But if this one doesn't go good for them this weekend, which I think State gets the sweep, it's just going to bring tougher times.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee hangs around, but their bullpen has just been, they just keep letting them down. And I mean, I mean, as an LSU guy, watching Gavin Guidry, if they get through that lineup one time, boy, I mean, that pumpkin when it hangs there and drops right in the middle of the zone, boy, they get hit a long way.
And you mentioned Appenzeller. He was definitely good out of the bullpen, but that was the only spot that Tennessee. The rest of the guys got shelled.
That's why I was going to say, and I was just going to say it's funny because Appenzeller was fantastic, but everybody else was just trash. And it is what it is. I think that, like I said, I truly think it was just too many portal misses, and when you're reliant like that, 'cause Tennessee lost a lot last year's team. Not only Vitello, but a lot of players as well, and filled the spots with what was thought to be talent and something that will Tennessee could keep playing their brand of baseball with, but hasn't been so far this year. Doesn't mean they can't turn it around. Because like I said, it's still 18 games left. We're not halfway through the SEC play yet, so there's still plenty of time to turn around. But the clock's ticking.
Let's jump from there to another series that I think both teams really need to win. Again, let's go to LSU and Ole Miss this weekend. LSU's tied for 7th at 6-6 in the league. Ole Miss is tied for 11th at 5-7, 1 game back. But again, you get it from 7-5 in this league to 5-7. You have let me count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams are 7-5 to 5-7. If that tells you how tight the league is and how competitive it is. So, what's your thoughts on this matchup?
First of all, great matchup. always love playing playing Ole Miss. Mike Bianco, their skipper, is an LSU alum, a national champion. So very respected, and he's also won a national title with Ole Miss as a coach. I think it's the only national title that school has ever won in anything. So, and then LSU guy had to win it for him. So, I mean, what do you do? Anyway, I think this is a series, another one that LSU has to win, especially after losing another midweek game. And I think we will. I think that the bats are starting to come around. You saw Aaron Beatty blow up last weekend. Evans, that ERA is right around 5. We need to see that start, coming down a little bit. He's just got to keep balls in the zone and keep stuff down. It's just placement. He doesn't throw so hard that he's just going to blow everybody up. He needs to, he needs to have a little movement on his ball and spot pitches. He's just not doing that well enough right now. So hopefully he can turn that around. From what I'm looking at here, it says that Schmidt is going to start on Saturday instead of Sunday. And Fontenot is gonna roll out Sunday, and then it'll probably be Johnny Fullstaff for the rest of the game there. But LSU starting to come around. They're hitting the ball better. It was great to see that last weekend. Monsters starting to come around a little bit. We need to see Jake Brown get back to where he was about a month ago when he was knocking the dog shit out of the ball. I think LSU takes 2 out of 3. Kev, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Friday night's a big one in this. You got Hunter Elliott against Kashawn Evans, and I think, well, it's just that's gonna be a huge matchup in this series. Whoever wins that, just like any SEC series, if you win on Friday night, you have a really good chance of sweeping the series. And I think both guys will pitch well. Ole Miss is 15th in the league hitting 256. LSU's hitting 285. 288 actually. They raised it a little bit from last weekend. Not bad. We talk about LSU not scoring, but honestly, they've scored pretty well. Pitching wise, Ole Miss is 5th in the league, 3.7. LSU rose one spot. Their 13th, 4.58 ERA. Again, I think some of that is skewed more midweek. That Friday night matchup is big. And then Saturday is too, but I really think Schmidt has the advantage against Townsend, who has had some good starts.
Yeah.
So I like LSU to at least split the first 2 games, and then Ray pitching Sunday for Ole Miss against Fontenot. I like Fontenot. He's pitched well all year. I think he gets you at least 3.
Yeah.
The guy the last 2 weekends that's been really good out of the bullpen, like last year, is Cowan. He pitched 4 2 weeks ago, pitched 5 innings this past weekend, or pitched into the 5th inning. And it's been outstanding the last 2 weekends. And so I think, they need that, and I expect them to get that against a team that's hitting 256. I think LSU wins 2 out of 3. And man, if Evans could win that Friday night game, I think it's possible they can get a sweep in this game. Now, the one thing LSU has to do better, they got to be better defensively.
Oh, yeah.
And I would like to see them solve what they're going to do between Yaman, Braun, in that scenario, first base, DH, Serna, who's been good, and Aaron Beatty, obviously you got to have his bat in the lineup. So between DH, catcher, Yaman was good behind the plate, in that Sunday game too. And I think if you're LSU and you can get that Friday night game, I give them the advantage in that Saturday game. LSU against bad pitching has scored a lot of runs. They scored a lot of runs against Vandy, scored a lot of runs against Tennessee, scored a lot of runs against Kentucky. So when it gets to that Sunday matchup, and at that point, Ole Miss is not as tough out of their starter. I think that gives LSU the advantage. One thing LSU needs to do, though, too, this weekend in game 1 or game 2, they really need to get one of those guys out early. Walker Hooks has been really good out of the bullpen for Ole Miss. And if you could knock out a Friday or Saturday guy in the third or fourth inning, where they still think they have a chance and they roll Hooks out there and you can beat them, that really takes advantage. Hooks is much like Callan. They want to put him in a tight game that they got a chance of winning and give him, he'll give him 3 or 4 innings.
Give
So
them the
that's,
best chance. Yep.
yep. So but I like LSU to get 2 out of 3, and with the potential if they could get Friday night to get a sweep. It's a
Yeah.
big game for series
It's
for us.
Evans is, I mean, it's just time to step up and be a number one. I yeah, I don't know if he is our best pitcher. I really don't. I if I think if gun to my head, if somebody if somebody said, hey, you need a series, or you need a game one, who you handing the ball to? I'd hand it to Schmidt. I
Oh
really
yeah,
would. I just,
absolutely, 100%.
I just, and that's not a knock at Evans, but he's just got to, he's got to start throwing the ball. I mean, just 4.97 just isn't good enough for a Friday guy. It just isn't. So he needs to step up. If he could give us, 7 and give up 2 runs, whatever happens after that, tip your cap and hope we can shut it down from there. I would take that right now. Um,
Yes, I agree, and I totally agree. If you're in the NCAA tournament right now and you're handing the ball to your game one guy, Schmidt is your game one guy.
yeah, definitely. And it's I mean, this kid has been talked about for 5, 6 years. People knew about him when he was a freshman in high school. So just great pitcher, great pitcher. He's going to be really special. He's going to pitch in big league stadiums and make a lot of money one day if he can stay healthy. Hopefully, like I said, and then Sunday, with Fontenot, like you said, Kev, get him through 3 innings. If he can get you anything more than that, it's just it's gravy. And I don't think Rob is anything that special for Ole Miss on Sundays. I think he's somebody that we can run off. You know what I mean? I think he's a guy that we could push out of there in a couple innings. If we can turn over on a couple. So, just consistent hitting, but like you said, more than anything, hands on the ground, ball into the glove, watch it happen. The errors, it just
Got to
can't.
eliminate it.
It's these guys, this is too high a level to make some of the errors that are being made, and it's costing you games, and it's going to cost us seeding, or even getting in if the season continues to be as wishy-washy as it has been.
100%.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's throw 2 series out there. Because they've started tonight, so we can talk about the 2 games essentially tonight and these 2 teams, because I think we can wrap these into kind of just one. So South Carolina, Missouri. South Carolina's up 5-1 in the 8th inning, and then you have Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. Vanderbilt won, I believe, it was 11-5. A game that was really close early. Um, Oklahoma's starter Mercurius pitched really well tonight, and then Vanderbilt blew up in the last couple innings and scored a bunch. It was a 5-4 game, and then Vandy blew it open late. What do you think in those 2 series? You got one that Vandy and Oklahoma. They're Vandy 6-6, Oklahoma 5-7, and then you have the other one. It's the battle of the bottom of the cellar. That's why I say let's just wrap both these into some of that. What's your thoughts on those?
Vandy, Oklahoma. First of all, Vandy's having a rough season so far. Very, very unvandy like. But Corbin not in any trouble up there. He'll get that turned around. Fantastic coach. I just I can't put my finger on why they're I'll be honest with you. I don't know how they were portal wise or recruiting wise with what they had brought in or how much they had lost. But the beginning of the year, Vandy was thought to be a lot better than they have shown to be so far. And Connor Fennell's one of the best pitchers in the country. But after that, it's really fallen off for him. That game, that first game with Fennell and Mercurius. What'd you say the score was in that game?
11-5. Both starters pitched well. Both starters only gave up 3 runs. Mercurius got through 6. I can't remember if Fennel got through 5 or 6. I think Fennel got through 5.
Okay.
But both starters were effective.
Yeah. And so Oklahoma's up, or Oklahoma won the game tonight, you said?
No, Vanderbilt won the game. Vanderbilt won it, blew it open late.
All right. That I mean, go figure. I'll take Vandy in the series. Obviously, they won the first game, but Vandy could get a sweep. You
Good.
know, Mercurius has been fantastic, but after that, Oklahoma's pitching isn't as good. I think this could be the series that Vandy turns it around and gets things going on the right track. And like you said, they really need to. If they can't wait another weekend to wait to start winning series. It's got to start happening now. So I think they'll do it. I think they'll take. I'll say they're going to sweep Oklahoma. How you like that?
There you go. You step out there. What about South Carolina, Missouri in the Who Gas series? Who Gas as in who gives a shit?
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I think Mizzou wins. I think Mizzou wins series. I think Mizzou's a better team, and Mizzou is not a baseball program. South Carolina's a baseball program. Listen, they had a rough year this year. They ran Maine off a few weeks ago. What do you do? South Carolina will be back. They've won a couple College World Series. This is a strong baseball program. Mizzou had a great preseason, but as I said, wait, let's see what happens when they get to SEC play. Not working out so well for them so far. I think that I think they'll win the series though against South Carolina. 2 out of 3, and it will probably be the highlight of the rest of their season. Thoughts?
Well, I'll be real quick. South Carolina, Missouri here. So with South Carolina being up 5-1 tonight in the 8th, they're playing at Missouri. So I'm going to go ahead and take South Carolina since they're going to jump out to a 1-0 lead. I think they'll just split the next 2 games. That's not a bold prediction when your team starts 1-0.
See, mine was bold. I said that Mizzou would come back and get it.
That's right. Now I'm going to go bold the other way. I think Oklahoma's going to get 2 out of 3 in this series with Vandy.
I like it.
Now, for that to happen, Saturday, their number 2 starter, the guy that is absolutely Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Cam Johnson, high ceiling, but hell of a low floor too.
Yeah, he can. Yeah,
he might be done in one.
It can get ugly quick.
Can't find the strike though.
It can get ugly quick.
So he's had 2 games where he couldn't find the strike zone. He's out. But I'm gonna count on the good Cam. They win tomorrow, and then Rager and the rest of that staff Sunday. I'm going to go there, and I'm also where I'm going with this too. So Vanderbilt, where their struggles, a lot of them has been, they're actually 16th in the SEC with an ERA over 5. So I think that's what will allow Oklahoma to get the wins. Vandy's hit the ball pretty well, 298 on the year, but that pitching and it, on Sundays they've given up a lot of runs on Sundays. They've won some Sunday games, but it's only because they've scored a bunch.
Yeah, you're looking at like they're winning by a field goal, like 13-10, stuff like that. That's a Vandy Sunday game.
They're playing football games on Sunday without a doubt.
Exactly what's happening.
So I think Oklahoma comes back and wins those next 2 games. There, again, Vandy doesn't look bad in the SEC at 6-6, but that overall record at 21-14. 8 losses out of conference. They are 7-8 out of conference. So
Vandy's 5th in the league in hitting. They're hitting just a tick under 300. I mean, it ain't because
that pitching has just been inconsistent. And Fennel's been okay for him, but outside of him, it's been bad.
And he hasn't been
what he could be.
He hasn't been what I thought he would be. I honestly thought he might be the best pitcher in the nation this year. And he hasn't.
He's and he has talent.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the kid's going to get drafted. He's going to make a lot of money. Whether he works out or not, I don't know. But he does have the talent. There's no doubt about that. And I think he has the chops too. I mean, I kid has moxie. He's got guts. He'll get a little fiery sometimes. I like that.
So that brings us to Auburn, Kentucky. Any thoughts there? It's at Auburn.
Um, should be a good series there. Auburn, who's you got the? I didn't have that one pulled up. Do you have the pitching matchup for tomorrow night?
So Friday, one of the best pitching matchups all year. You'll have Jelkin for Kentucky, who's been really good, against Marciano against Auburn. Jelkin's had one bad start. Same thing. Marciano's had one bad start, and by that I mean giving up more than a couple runs. So Friday night should be a great pitchers battle. Um, Harris will go Saturday for Sunday, or for excuse me, Harris will go Saturday for Kentucky. And then Sunday, it'll be Cleaver, who's been up and down. Really, he's been their weak. Last year's Friday night guy's been their weak point this year. And Auburn, it's going to be interesting to see if they go with Sanders Sunday or if they stay with Andres in that rotation. I think Petrovic will be the Sunday pitcher for Auburn.
That's what my site is saying. It's going to be Petrovic. Cleveland, but his ERA is 3.51. He hasn't been awful. It's just been the timing of his, and he's his defense hasn't helped him out a few times. He's been screwed by guys not being able to field the ball. So that happens. I like I like Auburn in the series. Auburn's a good baseball team. Kentucky's scrappy though. If Kentucky can Kentucky can get guys on base, they're going to steal bases, and when they get guys on, it gets messy, and it can have an effect on pitchers. Some kids just don't like throwing out of the stretch. And that has a big effect, especially when that if a guy gets on, he's probably going. So puts a lot of pressure on the defense, puts a lot of pressure on the catcher, and pitcher. Just everybody's got to be in tune there. But I like Auburn to win the series 2-1. I think Kentucky will get one game from them. I like the matchup, but I like Auburn in this. Who do you got?
I like Auburn again. Auburn's overall pitching staff. They were one in the league going into last weekend. They fell to two this weekend in the league. 3.29 ERA. I like that. Over a three games. I just do. Kentucky's 10th, 4.23. So that's a full run a game difference that the pitching staffs give up. But Jelkin and Marciano will be worth the watch Friday night. But I think even if Auburn were to lose that game, I think their advantage in the Saturday Sunday games is just too great. You're right. Cleaver's not been bad on Sundays, but he inevitably has an inning where he walks two or three guys. They could have won last Sunday. It should have. He should have got the win there. And he did get close to getting through 5 innings there. But he has an inning where he walks a couple and they'll pull him, and then it just goes south. But Kentucky, hitting wise, Kentucky's 284. They're right there with Auburn. They're 8th and 9th in the league. Auburn's 287 against Kentucky's 284. I just think when I look at the Auburn pitching depth, I like that a little bit better over 3 games. So I think Auburn will get the win in 2 out of 3. And if they were to get that Friday night win, potentially a sweep, Kentucky, though, like you say, they're really a tough team to sweep because they are very scrappy and very competitive, and they'll bring it every game. Mangione, he's a tough coach to sweep.
Yeah. Mingione, he's cocky. He's fiery. He's got a little Vitello-ish type. I mean, he's not afraid to speak his mind. And I saw him and Jay going back and forth in that series. They're buddies.
Yes.
But hey, I mean, there's nobody you want to kick. Anybody you want to beat more than your buddy. You know,
We
unless
certainly don't want to lose to if it's someone's a close friend. You just don't want to lose to them.
no, no. So, I mean, yeah, I like it. And Kentucky, like I said, they they go down the base pass and they put pressure on your defense. And but Auburn, Auburn's solid. Auburn's solid. I just think they're too much talent wise for Kentucky. I do.
Yeah, especially playing at home.
Yeah. But I'm gonna tell you one thing that has to happen. Um, LSU sitting at 4.58 team ERA has got to come down. I mean, that is, that's 13th in the SEC. Um, it's
Who would have thought of it at the beginning of the season with
it's
a pitcher with the arms they've got?
it's but it's exacerbated by our inability to make basic routine plays. We don't help ourselves. You know,
Very much so.
but it's got to start coming down, and Jay's got to find a way to get these guys. I don't know if he shakes up the rotation. I mean, maybe lets Schmidt throw on Friday and moves Evans to Saturday, take a little pressure off him or something. I don't know, but like I said, your Friday guy can't be sitting there at 4.97, and you keep handing him the ball and send him out there. Something got to happen.
The interesting thing with their ERA is concerning to me is now last year they got it corrected quickly, but if you look at the last four seasons and you take so the beginning of the season it existed last year, but they corrected it quickly. But the other 2 or 3 seasons it has been an ongoing thing is throwing strikes. And that Anderson and Ianson were two of your better pitchers in the country last 4 years. So that's kind of why it corrected quickly.
Yeah.
But that's it. You got to throw freaking strikes, and I just don't. You're a major college player. If you can't throw strikes at this level,
You shouldn't be there.
you shouldn't.
You shouldn't be there. And you just put so much pressure on your defense when you give free bags. You just put so much pressure, and you put it on your offense too. Because now
You do.
now we got to go score more runs because you can't throw a strike. It's something that's like I said, that's why I brought it up. It's certainly a stick point right now with LSU. It's not being talked about enough.
No,
I'm sure it
no,
is
it's not.
doors, but I wanted to bring it up because, like I said, it's just unacceptable. And if we're at 4.58 at the end of the year, don't count on too much in the postseason if something doesn't change with the pitching. Just the way it is.
If you don't have a solid 4 or 5 guys that you can count on to come pitch well, um, and your ERA, it needs to be around 4 or a little under that from where it's at right now. If you don't have 5 guys that you can count on, and let's just say right now, Schmidt obviously you can count on him. I think if Moore is back and he's healthy, he's been solid.
Yeah, he's been solid.
Cal in the last few weeks has been. Evans has been up and down, so there's a potential of him being solid. That's 4 potentially. Now Evans has got to get there, and then out of the bullpen, man, it is like outside of Cal, and it is like throw your hat and just Sheeran's been the best, and he's had more good games. And then after Sheeran, I would say Garcia, but he's had some ups and downs, but he's been better than most. Um, and that takes you to about 5 or 6. So the potential is there, but to me, they got to settle in on who it's going to be, and they got to be good.
Yeah.
And we're at a point of the season we should start seeing that.
And last thing, then I'm gonna hop off my soapbox. Just looking at all these stats, fielding percentage, we are number
One of the worst in the league.
where shit. We're not even on the page. That's how bad we are. We are last. We are last in the league. That um, you know, errors are worse than walks. Errors are worse than walks. They hurt you more than walks. So you've got to be able to field the ball clean. You've got to be able to play catch. As a baseball player, you've got to be able to play catch. And if you can't, everybody makes errors sometimes, but not at this rate. We're fielding it at 9.63, and if you should be at 9.8. If you're not at 9.8, then you're not fielding the ball well. And 9.63 is just an abomination. That's another thing that's got to get fixed. I mean, if we're sitting at last in the SEC fielding percentage in 6 weeks, we're in trouble. They got
Coming off of last year, the best defensive
yeah
team in the SEC,
yeah
maybe LSU's best defensive team ever.
yeah
And then again, you go back to this year, the worst in the SEC with maybe the best fielding shortstop
oh yeah
in the
yeah
SEC. So he's going to get you a lot of good points in the fielding percentage battle. So if you take him off,
oh
that's
yeah.
where it's going to get better.
I
And
can't
it goes, the
imagine what it'd be.
right side, Dardar and York. And again, York just needs to
You
he
you
needs to
you
replace him.
cringe when you see the ball get hit to that side of the infield. You're like, oh, Jesus. It's like it's got to be fixed. And I mean, if Jay's got to mix it up. I mean, if these guys were hitting the ball that great, then I get it. But they're not. Dardar's been up and down. But like I said, 9.63 again, unacceptable. It's
Yes,
just but listen. All that being said, we're still ranked. We're still, in the middle of the season. And this is shitty LSU baseball. This is bad LSU baseball, and we're still okay and in it. These are things that can be fixed, and we can turn around. Just got to get it done.
absolutely. Anything else you got? That pretty much covers it for me. I think we've done again recap on the Final Four last week. This week again, that 10 teams from 5-7 to 7-5. I want to see how this weekend plays out. Next Tuesday when we do a recap, where does the SEC standings lie in baseball? I think these next 2 weekends we'll see some separation. Still think you'll have a lot of teams close, but you'll see some separation.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Wanted to bring up spring football. Maybe we'll talk about a little bit about that this weekend. I want to give a shout out to my son Larry, who is watching right now, buddy. Keep working hard and kicking ass up there. They're coming towards the end of their spring practices up in Grinnell, Iowa. So he's out there, and there's breathing in all that nice fertilizer for the corn and the soy up there. And listen, Iowa is keeping America running with all the corn
That's
and soy.
right.
So
That's right.
respect those people. Respect those.
The farmlands and that is God's country for sure up
Yeah,
there.
all to the earth folk up there. Good people.
Yep.
Good people. Grinnell, Iowa.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. Like, subscribe, invite somebody, make some comments, tell us what you disagree with us on, and again, we look forward to being on. Probably try to do something this weekend, like we said, and then maybe next Tuesday and Thursday again. And we will just go from there. Everybody have a great evening. Anything you want to close